Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I'm joined by my dear friend Kevin Gamble. He and I are going to have a conversation about relicing guitars. I am undertaking a project where I am planning on taking a Classic Vibe. It's a 2016 Classic Vibe Squier Stratocaster. I bought it for $300. I doubt I could resell it for any more than that. I doubt that in the future it will be worth any more than $300. I would never ask anybody to pay more than $300 for the guitar, and I certainly didn't want to, so that's why I bought it at that price. And so I'm planning on aging it, and because I will not have the opportunity to age it given my current playing situation. I don't play live. It's going to be on a wall, and it's going to be used in the studio and for videos. So I know that Kevin has some opinions about relicing, and I kind of wanted to let him start off the video by giving his view of this. You know, relicing is kind of a hot button topic in the guitar community, and I think that Kevin represents a certain demographic. But I'm sure, as usual, he will be kind of, measured and even-handed. But Kevin, why don't you tell me your true feelings about relicing guitars?
Well, I've got my own opinions. Everybody has their own opinions, and I think my primary position on this topic comes back to something that is a priority for me, and that is authenticity. I think that is, for me, that is primary in every aspect of the experience of playing music, whether it's the instrument itself, what you're doing with it, the absence of as many shortcuts and fakery and imitation as possible throughout the creative process, whether that's writing, recording, mixing, all those kinds of things. And so, different things are created equal. Relicing a guitar is not the same thing as using auto-tune or using prefab samples and putting music together, or things that are, of much greater concern to me in terms of authenticity, using AI, that type of thing. Those are much more serious concerns. So to put it in context, anything to do with relicing an instrument is a relatively superficial concern, just because if you're still playing the guitar, you still have the authentic experience of making music with that instrument, and that's most important at the end of the day. So in terms of even-handedness, that's probably what I would focus on, is that no matter how severely I might feel about one aspect or another of this issue, internally, we're still just talking about the superficial appearance of a musical instrument. As long as you're playing it, as long as you're making music that is authentic and real to you, then the other things are of lesser concern. But I think in terms of authenticity, it does matter to me. It is something that is important, that I want the instruments that I have to reflect my experience of them, and I don't necessarily want to imitate something when it comes to the appearance or feel of an instrument. Now, I know we've talked before, and I think you've even talked on this channel about modifying instruments for the sake of playability, taking down the finish on the back of a neck to enhance playability, other things about the instrument, making modifications from the original form to enhance playability. And that, to me, that's always made sense. And when I talk about authenticity, it's not keeping the instrument exactly as it was originally and never modifying anything about it. But so maybe my sort of lead-off question, would be, what is the purpose of, or how would you define relicing as opposed to playability mods? And then what is the purpose of relicing if it's something distinct from making the instrument more readily playable?
Well, that's a great question. I think that we have to go with the idea that a relic is when you take something and you are purposefully aging it to make it look like it has been played more than it has been, to make it look older than it is. And I think, the word relic itself ties all of that in. I think that by virtue of doing certain relicing processes, you will end up with a more playable instrument, i.e., if you go and round your neck, and maybe you do take some finish off the back of the neck. However, relicing, I think, goes one step further than modification for playability, because if you're taking a hammer and you're whacking, putting a nick in the headstock of a neck, that serves no purpose other than to make it look as if it's been through more than it has been. And that's where the question of authenticity comes in. There's a video that I did a long time ago, and now I'm going to have to link it, but about putting a Fender logo on a parts caster, just because that makes you feel better about the instrument, or that's what you want. And I wrestle with that. I've done it a couple times, but I don't do it all the time. I still haven't done it to the guitar I featured in that video, because I wrestle with that idea of authenticity the same way you do. However, there comes a point where I think that if I'm going to do the modifications for playability on the particular guitar that I mentioned up front, this Classic Vibe 50 Strat, which I have to, because it just, I knew that I was going to, start sanding away at the neck and probably round the fingerboard a little bit, but I decided in my mind too that just the shininess of the whole object bothers me. There's a barrier there to me playing the guitar that I find with the way that it looks, and we've come across this on the channel before. The classic, the 40th anniversary Jazzmaster, where I was like, this satin finish is driving me nuts, so I buffed it out a little bit to make it, shinier, and I love that guitar. I don't play my white Jazzmaster ever. I play that other one because it looks and feels now the way that I want it to look, and some of that's been modding, but some of that you could say is like, well, I did alter the finish of the instrument, So I know I'm kind of going a little bit off topic, but I think that a relic is when you're putting history on the instrument, and history that wasn't earned. You're doing it intentionally, and you have to ask yourself, is the look that you're going for, the feel that you're going for, the combination of the two, does that outweigh authenticity? If I can't have an authentic experience with the guitar because I don't like the way that it feels and looks, why do I have the instrument? But yet I know that underneath all of that polyurethane, candy coat finish that's on it currently, with some scratches and some nicks and the proper neck wear that I want to put on that guitar, all of a sudden it'll feel like I'm picking up my Tokai, or I'm picking up my ancient Strat, both of which, started life as polyurethane finished guitars and have beat in and have worn in. So that, I'm not trying to go against the authenticity thing at all. But if I have an instrument that I'm not playing and I see no real future for, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to beat it in naturally over time, I decided, and this was a big decision for me, I decided that I was going to do this, and I thought I would, do a video series, which I am doing, and we'll all take a look at the result. And I'm not trying to do a Murphy Lab or a Fender custom shop job on this guitar, and let's be very clear about that, because I do have strong opinions about those sorts of things, because I think that starts becoming a bridge a little bit too far because of the cost. Me doing this in my garage or in my shop at home is one thing, but asking somebody to spend, thousands upon thousands of dollars for a guitar that does look beat to crap with rusted hardware, I think that's a hard sell. Anyway, back to you. I mean, did I answer your question?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I did.
I think a big part of this is, like you said, going to be going through this process and seeing what you come out with, because I know that what you end up with is not going to be like a Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat, with the finish sanded off, down to the wood, just so to simulate where the pick scratched into the wood 1,000 times or something like that. Or maybe it is. I don't want to predict how it's going to turn out, but
I don't know how it's going to turn out at this point, so we'll see.
But it's threading a different needle, and it's more the kind of thing that you were just wrapping up talking about that concerns me, where we're trying to imitate something that is only being done for that reason, like the rusted hardware, things like that. I mean, maybe anyone can take that idea of, the new shiny instrument is an impediment to me enjoying it, to the length of my tuning heads have to be corroded in order for me to feel like I can play the instrument. Maybe everyone can say that, but I feel like when you're going that far to simulate something like that, it's that takes it all the way to virtual reality instead of an authentic experience of an instrument and the wear and tear in that. And but it is, there are things about those worn instruments that are special. I hadn't thought to bring it up, but this this Yamaha BB300, which I brought out in the last video to, my very first instrument, got it in the late 80s. It's got a magnificent neck on it, and it won't show up on the camera, but the finish of the neck was, I believe these were originally a poly satin finish. I've got a sort of a clone of this bass back here from the same time period that I got many years later that it's kind of a dull satin finish, which is, workable, but it doesn't have that real sort of special, luxurious quality about it. And years and years and years of playing this did sort of what you talked about a moment ago. It almost kind of buffed it a little bit. Where
it does buff it. It does.
It's not a full gloss. Yeah. It's not a full satin. It's somewhere in between that would be very hard for me to replicate any other way. And it feels that much more special because of it. And so if somebody said, hey, here's a switch you can flip where every single neck you have could have this exact state of worn inness, would I choose it? And I don't know, because this is a unique neck. This is something where it's the experience of this instrument really that is special. So there's a few dings, there's a few dents here and there that were all put on there by me. And I can remember the moments where a lot of them happened. And so on one hand, this is a physical state of an instrument that can potentially be replicated. And on the other hand, this instrument is a collection of stories. Every element of it, these crazy strap lock type things I put on that I don't even know if I could find now, and like the dents and the dings and the finish that the neck has ended up with. It's like this instrument is a story. It's a story of my life. And so can you fast forward through that? I don't know. Part of me just takes these other instruments I've acquired over the years and others and appreciates just what they are and where they are in their story. So, but the idea of being able to to tune those things to the way you want them, again, to me, it's kind of where's the dividing line between relicing for the sake of aging, and where is it for creating the experience of playing the instrument that you want to have? That is kind of that gray area.
It is a gray area, and I think that we'll kind of make our way out the door here on your idea of stories. I think that's something that really resonates with people. I think that a lot of people who are just completely against relicing would say exactly what you're saying, where it's like, well, it's not authentic and it's not the story of the instrument. And I feel the same way about my I've kept so many of my guitars, and I've had so many of them for so long. I mean, so many of the guitars on the wall behind me I've had for 20 plus years. So these I've got broken headstock on the Blue Dean back there. I remember when that happened. And I can see the repair on it every time I pick it up and play it. I have lots of guitars that have lots of road rash that I put on them, which makes me feel okay and confident and curious as to whether I can do that to something that is just brand spanking new. Can I make it look like it was on stage with me along with all these other guitars for so many years and taking that kind of abuse? Because as it sits, it just... The other thing that bugs me and really makes me want to do this to this guitar is the fact that it looks like one of those remember, I got the two Tokais just back to back. I had one with a 3-color sunburst and one with a 2-color. This Classic Vibe looks just like the 2-color sunburst Tokai. And so I have the other Tokai is in existence still. I still have it, but this makes me feel like this is an opportunity to recapture that moment, and then let's see if we can put it in a time machine and go through those 40 plus, almost 40 years, 35 years of age, so that it can sit on the wall next to the other one, and I can go, oh, it's like I never got rid of that guitar, because I did. I got rid of one of the Tokais to pay rent 1 month back in like 91 or 92 or whatever, when I was living in my first apartment. So, I get the story thing, and I get I get it, but I'm gonna do it. I just feel like I kind of have to, because I think that there's something to putting age on the instruments. I really do, because if I had my druthers, I would never buy anything new. I would buy always used instruments. The unfortunate part is that the kind of instruments that I'm looking for on the used market all too often are just, it's too much money, more money than I'm willing to spend, because I'm old and I remember how much these things cost back in the day. And I'm not going to buy a mid-90s Fender Strat, for $2,000. I'm just not going to do it. So to get to the places I want to be with that particular guitar, I feel like this is the road I want to go down. And I also want to go down it because I think there's a lot of people out there who will appreciate the fact that I'm not doing a Stevie Ray Vaughan relic. I'm doing my relic of my experience, because I have the instruments in the Road Rash to look at. I know where my pick marks are. I know where I wear the finish off of a maple neck. So it's going to be kind of interesting, because it's going to be a unique take, I think, on aging a guitar, because I have the experience and I have the instruments to back me up that I have aged through all the wonderful stories that you're talking about.
Yeah, and to get back to the topic of authenticity, it's exactly what you're talking about. When you look at the aged 57 Strat from the guitar catalog or whatever, whose experience of the guitar is that replicating? It's just a generic aging. It's a generic relicing. It's designed to look like people think those instruments are supposed to look. But what you're replicating is your own authentic experience of playing guitar, which has created something on all the guitars that you've played long enough. And so it's a very personal recreation, as you're saying. It's replicating something that is specific to you. And so you're not trying to be something you're not necessarily. You're not trying to imitate someone else's experience of a guitar. You're trying to bring back, something that you have now to something that's in you and of you. And that's the kind of relicing and authenticity that would be hard to sell in mass quantities, but is meaningful for a person to do. And I hear you. I think about this neck and this instrument, and it's like, yeah, that's a very personal kind of time capsule to try to recreate. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops and how you kind of thread that needle by making the guitar into your version of a relic guitar.
Yeah, because I still think that despite the fact that I'm not going to be doing a high-end relic necessarily, it is still a relic job. I mean, I still want the guitar to look as if it's had 35 years of play wear on it. So, and if you wanted to have that nice finish on the back of all of your necks, all you have to do is like sand them down with 400, 600 grit sandpaper, then hit them with automotive buffing compound, and then you'll get the best of both worlds. You take it to satin, then you bring it back, and then you'll end up in that middle ground. So if you're ever itchy about doing something like that, then that would be the way to do it. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody who has recently subscribed. We had a great year last year. Kevin and I are super stoked about the direction the channel is headed. As we get up in the subscriber count, we will be doing more interesting things. I'm really sold on the idea of maybe turning one of these conversation with Kevin episodes into a live stream every few months, so that we can have everybody join in and we could all talk about a topic and do some fun stuff like that. That is a plan for the future. We need to get our numbers up a little bit more to make sure that people will be there for it. But we're getting there. And if you've made it this far into the video, please hit that subscribe button. Likes and shares are always greatly appreciated. And the comments section, just keep blowing it up. But one quick note, let's keep it clean and keep it respectful. We all have strong opinions about things, and it's okay to state those opinions in a reasoned and thoughtful manner. But let's not go after anybody and just say things to be mean. because that's not the spirit of the channel. The spirit of the channel is to go on a DIY discovery together, and hopefully we all learn a little something along the way. All right, you take care, and we'll see you next time.